Yes, Wolfwalkers then. Whether by flaw or by design, most people would probably agree that Apple have so far kept off the pace set by the other big streaming platforms in terms of the quantity and arguably quality of their original programming. One thing the Cupertino campus isn't short of, however, is cash, and if they can't or won't make that content, then the option is certainly there for them to buy it. Some interesting stuff is gradually finding its way onto TV+. And of recent note, Wolfwalkers certainly stands out as worthy of your time. The most recent effort from Irish animation studio Cartoon Saloon, who previously brought you The Breadwinner and Fudd's on Film favourite Song of the Sea, which I have finally now caught up with Drew. Wolfwalkers plants its action in the studio's native Kilkenny with a nebulously medieval fantasy setting, a time and place steeped in rich folklore and magical overtones. Robin Goodfellow, voiced by Honor Nevesey, I'm pronouncing that. I don't know if that's correct. Honor, if you're listening, I know you're a big fan. I apologise. Is a young English apprentice hunter, anyway, who has accompanied her father, Bill, Sean Bean, to Ireland on his quest to rid Kilkenny of a seemingly antagonistic lupine presence amongst the woods. This is a problem for the Lord Protector of the occupying English forces, voiced by Simon McBurney, who has sworn to safeguard his townspeople as they clear the woods for agricultural purposes. But, arguably, it becomes an even bigger issue for Bill when Robin befriends a feral young Irish girl named Maeve. A wild child in more ways than one, Maeve, voiced by Eva Whittaker, is a wolfwalker, human when awake, transforming into a wolf when asleep, and the daughter of the problematic wolf tribe's leader Moll, voiced by Maria Doyle Kennedy. As Robin's friendship with Maeve blossoms, it places her at odds with her father, as her determination to seek a peaceful resolution between the wolves and the village is in direct opposition to Bill's orders from the Lord Protector, namely that he is to eradicate the wolves promptly or suffer the consequences of failing his master. Things are complicated further by a turn of events detailed in the trailer, but which I'd rather not discuss here in the hope that you haven't seen that but would very much like to watch Wolfwalkers, which you should, because it's very good. As the example of classic children's storytelling, Wolfwalkers is an absolute delight, with another delightful screenplay from Will Collins. And while the narrative is so well crafted that it would no doubt work in just about any medium, it succeeds particularly well here in light of Cartoon Saloon's hand-drawn aesthetic, complete with leftover animators' pencil marks, which is rich, vibrant, full of character, and distinct in style. I found myself particularly surprised by that latter observation, as I suppose in a world flooded by visual media, the quest for artists to establish ownership of a style that doesn't feel contrived must be increasingly fraught. Yet I found Wolfwalkers to be visually enchanting and unique in a way that was immediately engaging. An animated feature can, of course, also live or die by the quality of its voice performances. And again, there is good news here in that they range from entirely decent at one end of the spectrum to absolutely excellent at the other. The former, you may be unsurprised to learn, is embodied by Sean Bean, whose thespian career in general remains an enigma to me, but here delivers a performance that is tonally in keeping with the piece and remains commendably removed from the risk of screwing it up for everyone else. Well done, Sean Bean. You may have a lollipop. The real value, however, is to be found in the performances of the two young leads, upon whose diminutive shoulders the lion's share of the narrative rests, and it turns out we're in pretty safe hands. Honor Nevesey does a pretty admirable job with Robin Goodfellow, and if at times I felt she lacked a little range, I did remind myself that she was frequently bouncing off the performance given by Sean Bean. It's Eva Whittaker who really shines, though, a young woman about whom we know nothing other than her one prior credited performance in a TV short from 2019, with a fantastically engaging portrayal of Maeve that fits beautifully with her character's visual appearance and avoids the pitfalls of precociousness or self-conscious delivery that younger actors often fall into. We don't know where she's from, we don't know where she's going, but we do hope to hear from her again. Directors Tom Moore, a Cartoon Saloon regular, and Ross Stewart do an admirable job of keeping the storytelling tight. With material this aesthetically rich, the temptation to indulge must no doubt be difficult to resist, the discipline essential, and so it speaks well to both parties that the end result is so cohesive and compelling throughout. As Stewart's first directorial credit, this is a pretty good start to a new paragraph of his already burgeoning creative resume, and for Moore, it marks another uptick on his path to becoming perhaps the new messiah of traditional animation. The real litmus test of such things remains, of course, the attentions of a younger audience, and if the feedback from my clones aged 7 and 4 11/12 are anything to go by, then Wolfwalkers gets a big thumbs up from its de facto target audience. But I'm willing to wager its appeal will be pretty universal.
I think you're probably right there. I have to admit, I was slightly disappointed by Wolfwalkers. I'd been really looking forward to it. I liked some of all of Cartoon Saloon's other stuff to varying degrees, but all like generally it was, very good. And I didn't enjoy it as much as I hoped to. But I want to watch it again, probably fairly soon too, just to see if that was maybe a mood thing.
Well, we've already established you've stopped watching films just to enjoy them, Drew.
Yes, that's we've firmly established, Craig, you're right. And it was a little bit of a slow build for me. The first maybe 10 or 15 minutes, it was really not doing much for me at all. But then at the point when Maeve and Robin first meet and start kind of basically arsing about in the forest, I was finding it really entertaining, really fun. Oh, right, okay, yes, here, this feels better. And yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about it other than that. I did enjoy it, just not as much as I was hoping. The animation style is noticeably Cartoon Saloon, but each film does tend to have its own stamp. In a lot of ways, this definitely felt a lot like The Secret of Kells in the style, but there are extra things too. So in this case, very specifically, if it's been there before, I don't actually remember noticing it, but as you mentioned, the animator's pencil marks being left, which is a bold choice, because it could read like somehow they had forgotten or run out of time to remove them or something. It's obviously deliberate, but it's...
Or just like a really sort of horrible affectation. Like a desperate attempt to establish something unique.
Yeah, so I'm not... It worked for me, though. I liked seeing them there. I thought that was interesting. And then you've got the way the town is shown, Kilkenny, with no perspective at all. And it's shown in a very kind of... like a 10th or 11th century way, very medieval, the way it's drawn. And then the actual only real depth in the animation is in the forest. And the only time you see any sort of hint of perspective at all, I quite like that juxtaposition. That worked really well. But yeah, it's good. I like Cartoon Saloon a lot, and I like that there are still these traditional animation studios, at least in terms of like 2D hand-drawn stuff, albeit that they're digitally put together, because, well, why wouldn't you use that tool? Yeah,
exactly.
But I like that there's still people doing that sort of thing with a decent budget and decent ambition, that they've not just all been subsumed by CGI. And I don't think it ever will be, but I still think it becomes a harder and harder sell. The only thing I wanted to mention, because I thought it was strange watching it, like Cromwell's never named as Cromwell in the whole film, and I wonder if that's because like the target audience isn't going to know who Cromwell is, or what my personal belief is that Cromwell may just actually be a really bad swear word in Ireland.
No. It's entirely possible.
That was what I came down the side of. I was like, probably consider it even worse than I consider the word Tory. So if you've got to bleep me again, Scott, in this episode. It was like Cromwell's. I just was struck by the fact that they very specifically don't call Cromwell Cromwell. They always the Lord Protector and a few other names as well. That's not a really comment on the film. It's more just like that was of interest to me. But just before Scott gives us his thoughts, I assume he's watched this. What did you think of Song of the Sea, Craig, if now you've just caught up with it?
Oh, really enjoyed it. Again, we watched it in pretty short order after this, so it was a little while ago now. But again, my litmus test is always the kids. And my daughter was the impetus to watch Wolfwalkers, because she'd seen the trailer and she was really, really excited to watch it. So I'm like, yeah, of course, cool. And then immediately after watching this, I'd said, oh, right, okay, because the pair of them really enjoyed it. I said, there's another film made by the same people that Daddy needs to watch anyway. Do you want to watch that? And we sat down. And in some respects, I think I maybe enjoyed Song of the Sea even more. But yeah, no, I'd honestly, this was the first Cartoon Saloon production that I'd watched. I think, in fairness, actually, I think it's strictly speaking a co-production again, which a lot of their stuff has been.
Yeah, the Breadwinner was a co-production with somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a co-production as well. Yeah,
yeah. I think it falls. I think it falls firmly under the banner of Cartoon Saloon, however. But I just found them really engaging and enchanting in the way that, because I read a lot with my kids. I spend a lot of time reading with them, and in the sort of best sense of children's illustrated literature, some of the best books we've enjoyed there. And I'm trying to think, Song of the Sea really put me in mind of not Oliver Jeffers. Oh, the name escapes me now, but there's an author whose books we really enjoy, and it really put me in mind of that. And it's just, it was just a lovely piece of classical storytelling, and there were elements of Song of the Sea that were quite, perhaps more abstract than in this, that potentially went over the kids' heads a little bit more, but it didn't detract from their enjoyment of it. They kind of had to ask me to explain a couple of times what was happening in Song of the Sea, because I think some of the imagery was a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? I've already used abstract, and now my vocabulary's failing me. But there wasn't that issue with Wolfwalkers, but I really, really enjoyed them both. I don't know, I would have to watch them both again to tell you which I felt was probably the better film. But I really don't think anyone's going to waste time watching either of them.
Good to hear.
Very nice indeed. Because obviously I have to watch a lot of kids stuff, and I find myself zoning out quite a bit. There's a lot of CG stuff out there, and I know no one sets out to make a bad or mediocre piece of entertainment. I'm sure everybody involved in the production of Captain Underpants was just as, or Boss Baby was just as involved and keen to please as the people responsible for something like Soul. But the amount of sort of throwaway, or it feels like throwaway sort of CG filler material that's out there, it's just really lovely to see something, to find something that felt new to me, because obviously you guys had seen Song of the Sea but I hadn't. So to have something that was so classical but like in no way, shape or form lacking in sophistication was really refreshing. And I just think I really appreciated some of the character design in this. I think in particular the character design of Maeve, I think that's a really beautiful piece of illustration. And if it's one of those films where if you just I could turn the sound off and probably enjoy it just purely on a visual level. I don't know that necessarily the dialogue is necessary, and I think that's that in particular is a marker of a really good piece of entertainment, because just like a storybook, the illustrations probably convey the story just as well as the text. I think this film probably does just as good a job visually as it does in the dialogue. So yeah, I very, very much enjoyed them.
Maeve's like a cross between a hedgehog and a troll doll. It's very unusual.
That's a pretty good summation, actually. Yeah.
Yes, really. I have nothing negative to say about Wolfwalkers, and most of the positives you've already covered, so I won't go on too long. Yes, lovely film, highly enjoyable, really lovely narrative. It's really livens up, as you say, Craig, when the younglings are on screen together, really kind of spark off each other and creates a really kind of memorable little relationship between the two, and that works really well, and that really carries the rest of the film. And yes, it's all great. The visual style I loved all the way throughout, particularly when it's like you say, Drew, when it's back into the town and it looks more like a kind of almost Anglo-Saxon tapestry.
Yeah, exactly the sort of thing I was thinking about.
Yeah, looks absolutely fantastic, and in the kind of more nature and the free form wood stuff, all just lovely stuff. Just a really, really enjoyable film. Loved it.
Yay!
Excellent.
Have we banished all memories of, I won't say its name, the one we spoke of first?
Don't remember what we're talking about.
What am I talking about?